Each week we do acknowledge that we bring a lot of things with us into this present moment, and we know that there are a lot of joyful things and a lot of concerning things that happen in our lives. We want to acknowledge that those exist and that they're present with us. If you're online joining us today, I invite you to put any joys or concerns that you want the congregation below the video. If you're here in person, we have a book that you can put any joys or concerns that you want folks to know about, and we read those. There's nothing written here today, but I do want to place a stone of gratitude for those of you who have helped with our urban cleanup as a part of the pretrial justice group. You have been incredibly helpful to one of our clients, so part in that cleanup effort. And a stone of safety and gratitude for our young people who are out and bringing it into our sanctuary for our holiday. Next week we're going to decorate it together, but they are out doing that together and having fellowship and time with one another, so we wish for their connection. And I invite you to come forward now if you would like, and place a stone concerns you want to acknowledge this morning. place a stone for those joys and concerns shared online today. And a stone for those things that haven't quite found their way to the surface yet, but that we know we're holding on to for something. I know there's a lot going on this time of year, but I hope that we do take time to share with one another what these stones represent to us, what those joys and concerns are that we might be carrying with us, with the goal and the hope that by sharing our joys, they are magnified, and by sharing our burdens, they are lessened. May that be what we are for one another as community.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Papp. I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development for this congregation. My pronouns are she and they. Happy December. How many of you like to wear a hat or sometimes wear a hat? So why do you wear your hat?
Well, and I want to keep the temperature in my body and not outside of it.
Okay. So wearing your hat to keep yourself comfortable. You have a hat. When do you choose to wear a hat?
Why did I wear a hat?
Sure.
Because I didn't comb my hair.
Because you didn't comb your hair today. I feel ya, actually. You're leading right into my story. Who else likes to wear hats? Or wears a hat sometimes?
Keep the sun out of my eyes.
To keep the sun, so to protect yourself from the sun and to keep yourself comfortable. You wear a winter hat so you don't get cold. Yeah, to protect yourself from the weather and to keep yourself comfortable. Nick? The same thing. Anybody else have a time they want to wear a hat that they like to share?
Either to keep my bald head warm or to show what sports teams I like to.
Oh, okay. To celebrate your sports teams. Sometimes people wear a hat when they want to be fancy, right? I see hats over here. Why are you wearing hats?
Hide from the world.
Can hide. So when you're feeling a little shy and self-conscious. And so that you can't draw on his head. Protection from many things, the world and your family. Yes?
One that looks like a snow cone and he's smiling at other people.
To celebrate and make you happy, yes. This is my Queen Bee hat. I picked up this hat the other day, though, I don't wear hats typically, but I put it on the other day because I wasn't feeling very confident in the way my hair looked that day. And so I said, well, there's a choice I have. So all sorts of reasons why a hat has other meanings other than just being a hat, right? Well, I have a story for you about a young man named Anthony. And he showed up at school one day with a ball cap on. So at their school, there was a rule in their dress code that said no hats in the classroom. I don't know why they have that rule. It might be a good rule, it might not be a good rule, but that was the rule. He was asked to take his hat off, and he refused. He just shook his head. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. Just said no. So what do you suppose happened? Anyone? He got in trouble. He went to the principal's office in their particular place. Yeah, there was a dean. There were levels. We start out with the dean, and he got sent there. And the consequence for breaking the dress code or refusing to comply with the dress code was in-school suspension and or to be sent home. Well, Anthony was very respectful to the dean, but just told him that he was not going to comply with that request and he was not going to remove his hat. After about 30 minutes of this, the dean escalated this and said, we need to speak to Principal Smith. So Principal Smith came in, and he sat down across from Anthony, and the first thing he said to Anthony was, what's wrong? Why are you being so defiant? Why are you refusing to take your hat off? What's going on? It's kind of a simple request. He was the first person that day to ask Anthony why and what was going on with him. Anthony looked straight at Mr. Smith, and he said that his parents had taken him to get his hair cut, and he hated what it looked like. He said the line was all wrong. Anthony agreed to take off his hat to show Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith thought it looked okay, but he also understood that to a 13-year-old boy, it really didn't matter what he thought. His opinion was not relevant. He understood that if it was true for Anthony, it was true. And he also understood that in Anthony's culture, in particular for him as a young man, the black barbershop culture, was very important that he have a sharp haircut and he make sure he go out looking his best. That was important to him. So Mr. Smith had been cutting hair for his friends and his family his whole life. And so he said, I've been doing this for a long time, Anthony. I do it for my sons. And he pulled out his phone and he showed him some pictures of the cuts that he had done on his sons. And he said, if I run home and get my clippers and fix your line, will you go back to class without your hat on? Okay, yes, Anthony said. So that's what Mr. Smith did. He left work, he ran home, he picked up his clippers, called the parents, got permission, and he trimmed up Anthony's hair in a way that made Anthony feel comfortable. Anthony kept his part of the deal, and when he returned to class without his cap, he also apologized for being defiant, and he thanked Mr. Smith. This is a true story, by the way. I failed to tell you this, but this is a true story. Mr. Smith knew that Anthony had a story behind his behavior. He took the time to make Anthony the most important person in his day for the time that it took. He was present for Anthony, and he asked, what's going on for you now? Why are you making this choice that clearly appears to be a really bad one? And then he offered to help with a solution that they could both get behind and both agree upon and could get Anthony back into the classroom getting the education that he deserved. Mr. Smith recognized that that hat wasn't just a hat. And we can do the same when we encounter people. Mr. Smith knew that the most important person, well, the most important people to be with are the ones who need our attention right now. And the most important thing to do is to listen to their stories and to be kind. If we pay attention to the people who are around us and are present for them and are kind, we'll be doing the most important thing. So what if, when we see a behavior that we just don't understand, we ask ourselves, is that hat, that behavior, really just a hat? It's a good way for us to remember. Helps me remember. Thank you for sharing that with me today. Blessed be.
It's time for this week's offering. The days surrounding Thanksgiving holiday can be meaningful in a number of ways. It may be a treasured time to be with our loved ones and a time to reflect on all that we have to be grateful for. It can also be a painful reminder of past and continued violence against Native people, and also the incredible power of Native resistance. It is for these latter reasons that today's offering will be shared with the Lake Erie Native American Council. The Council is a Native American-led 501c3 nonprofit organization that works to preserve, maintain, and promote Native American culture in Northeast Ohio. Your generosity will help fund cultural events, classes, and family support to the Indigenous community of Northeast Ohio, as well as educational opportunities for non-Native partners like many of us who are here today. Give as you are able and place your offering, cash or check made payable to UUCC, in a collection plate as it is passed. You may also contribute via Cash App to $UUCC44122. Please use the memo line to indicate today's date and our plate recipient, Lenac, L-E-N-A-C. This morning's reading is by Elena Westbrook, called Being Present. Let every moment be a prayer. With every sip of tea, let your lips move in thanksgiving. Be fully present to every stroke of the hairbrush, every cup of milk you pour for the children. Be present without judgment or regret, without plans or expectations, or even dreams, and every moment becomes a prayer.
We talk about it as mindfulness sometimes. It's a fancier word for being present, just being in this moment as it is right now. We talk about mindful eating. We are really tasting and sensing and feeling whatever it is that we're eating in this moment, and not just being mindless and just getting food in us so that we can go on with things. And maybe there's a mindfulness to being dean of a school where we can say, what's happening in this moment, rather than what has happened with all of the other students that I've experienced in my career, or what might happen with students tomorrow or later today. What's happening in this moment, right now, this present moment? Eckhart Tolle says that all of the things that we fear are about bringing in too much future instead of being present. And all of the unforgivingness that we experience, whether we're not forgiving ourselves or not forgiving other people, is about letting the past invade our present moment. I do think we have to repair things. We still have our kintsugi plate up because repair is an ongoing practice. It's hard to be in the present moment when we know that there are things that have to be repaired. But it's possible, because chances are in this present moment you can't do that repair work. That'll have to wait. And so for this present moment, where can we be but here? There are a lot of times when we put our past into our future, though. If somebody's been bitten by a dog one time, they might be afraid of every dog they ever encounter. It might have happened a long time ago. There might have been a lot of dogs in their life since then that have not bitten them. But if one dog bit me way back when, every dog I encounter might be the next dog that's going to bite me. I put my past into my future, and I live that way. We do that with people sometimes too. We had a bad experience with a person, and we take that bad experience and we live into it as if we've got a crystal ball that says that bad experience is going to happen over and over and over again. If I'm not careful and watchful, I have to be on guard to make sure that never happens again. We put our past into our future. Being present in the moment invites us to let go of that, to take stock of what's happening in this moment, so that we recognize our sense of safety, so that we recognize our sense of connection, so that we recognize that what happened in the past and what happened in the future might not be things that are impacting us right now. In this present moment, you might feel a certain temperature. It might not be comfortable to you. In this present moment, right here in this room, if you're at home, set your thermostat where you want it. Be comfortable, please. In this present moment, we are carrying the past with us in a certain way. We had some concerns about COVID. We still have some concerns about the health of our community. It turns out all kinds of healthy things happen when air is moving, and unhealthy things happen when air is stagnant, especially if you have a bunch of people in the same room breathing the same air. So we've got the heat on, and we've also got the windows open and the fans exhausting air to try to keep the warm air in here and moving. We're carrying the past with us. But in this present moment, even if you know that, you might say, this is not the most comfortable feeling right now. Being in the present moment sometimes means being aware of our discomfort and being able to say, there's a difference between being uncomfortable and being in pain. And is this discomfort okay right now? I think when we're present with other people, we have to be okay with their discomfort too. Sometimes, if I am so adamant that someone take their hat off, and I come up with all of the very persuasive reasons that they need to take their hat off, but I fail to be present with the fact that they are not comfortable with something that is happening right now, I can have the best arguments in the world and fail that person in that moment. There are people that have a lot of fears right now in our world, and that's hard to sit with. It's hard to be present with other people's pain. It's hard to be present with other people's fear. And so for our own comfort, sometimes we say, it's not that bad. You don't have to worry about that. Oh, I've been through worse. Oh, let me tell you about what I had to go through. We want to be comfortable because their pain is too much to bear. Their fear is too much to bear. And so sometimes being present is not the same as being comfortable. That's not why we have the windows open, but it makes a good example. I am going to read from a book you normally don't get to hear in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. The book of Ecclesiastes seemed very appropriate for our thoughts of being in the present. The writer of Ecclesiastes, one of the most humanist books in the Bible, by the way. I have witnessed the wicked buried with honor, because during their lifetimes they would go in and out the temple, and soon their crimes were forgotten in the very city where they committed them. This, too, is fleeting. When the penalty for a crime is not carried out quickly, then people start scheming to commit their own crimes. Although a wicked person commits 100 sins and still lives a long life, I am confident it will go better for those who worship the one true God and stand in awe before him. And it will not go well for the wicked, nor will their days grow long like evening shadows, because they do not stand in awe of God. Here's another example of the fleeting nature of our world. There are just people who get what the wicked deserve. There are wicked people who get what the just deserve. I say this too is fleeting. And so I heartily recommend that you pursue joy. For the best a person can do under the sun is to enjoy life. Eat, drink, and be happy. If this is your attitude, joy will carry you through the toil of every day that God gives you under the sun. We want the world to work a certain way. We act with a vision in mind of what the world could be. And we are often frustrated that the world does not work according to our vision for it. We see people suffer, and we think, why in the world is that person suffering so much? They don't deserve that. They're such an amazing human being. They don't deserve to suffer like that. And we see people that have every measure of success, and we say, oh my goodness, that person is horrible. That's a horrible human being. Inherent worth and dignity aside, their behavior is deplorable. Why are they getting rewarded for this over and over and over again? Why are they getting all of these benefits? And the writer of Ecclesiastes says, This is just the way the world is. We're thousands of years after the writer of Ecclesiastes put those words down. This is, I don't know how much BC. The world hasn't changed in that respect. We can rail against it, or we can embrace the joyfulness of this moment. And if I translate into Unitarian Universalist values what the writer of Ecclesiastes is saying, we talk about liberating love being at the center of our values. If we live in the spirit of liberating love, if that is what we allow to guide our experience of the present moment, and the next moment, and the next moment, then it will go better for us than all of the wicked people that we see in the world. I'm going to read another Bible passage because this past week, a lot of us probably experienced some busy households. Maybe you didn't. If you had a Thanksgiving that was just chill and you got to relax, I envy you just a little bit. There's a passage in Luke chapter 10. Jesus has just gotten like 70 or 72, depending on which monk was transcribing things, 70 or 72 disciples, and he sent them out, and he's given them all these instructions, and they've been successful in doing all this grand, fantastic stuff, and he has the opportunity to go to someone's house for dinner, and so he just goes to chill, basically, at somebody's house. Jesus continued from there toward Jerusalem and came to another village. Martha, a resident of that village, welcomed Jesus into her home. Her sister Mary went and sat at Jesus' feet, listening to him teach. Meanwhile, Martha was anxious about all the hospitality arrangements. You got a VIP in your house. And so Martha interrupts Jesus, talking to Mary, and says, "Lord, why don't you care that my sister is leaving me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to get over here and help me." She listens to you, right? Tell her to get over here and help me. And Jesus said, "Oh, Martha, Martha, you are so anxious and concerned about a million details, but really only one thing matters. Mary has chosen that one thing, and I won't take it away from her." Maybe a chastisement about busyness. It's amazing when we have people in our home whom we love and we want to connect with, and we spend an abundance of time being busy to make sure everything is perfect instead of being with the people that we've invited into our home. But I have the impression that's what Thanksgiving is for a lot of folks. That might be what Christmas is for you too, or some other holidays. You invite people into your home and create such a busyness that you can't really connect with one another. And what would it be like for us, recognizing the sacredness in every person, recognizing that Jesus in this story might be standing in for anyone in this room who might need you to just sit with them for a few moments and be with them. And they don't need everything to be plated perfectly. And they don't need to make sure that there's, the right color palette with all of the decor. They just need you being present with them, letting them know that they are the most important thing to you right now. Letting that person who won't take off their hat know that the hat is not the important thing. The person wearing the hat is the important thing. How do I be present with you, the human being in front of me right now? It's a practice. We're talking about the practice of presence because there are lots and lots of things that distract us. But if we practice, we might learn how to be with people, to connect more deeply, not to make everything perfect, but to let people know that they are the most important thing in that moment. Our relationships and the opportunity for them to be richer and more sustaining than the grind of what demands our attention. Our relationships might be the thing that is most holy and sacred in our Unitarian Universalist theologies. So a lot of us put our past into our future. A lot of us spend an incredible amount of energy worrying about what might happen. This is not an experience of being fully alive, but it is a very human experience. And when we do that, we miss the gift of the present moment, which is really all we have when you think about it. This present moment is all we can affect. So you might be thinking about what you need to do, and it might be different for you than it is for other people around you. Maybe there is something from your past that you need to let go of in order to be present with people in this moment. Maybe there are some future fears that you need to set aside so that you can be present in this moment. Maybe you need to do both. You can be an overachiever if you want to be. It's okay to plan for what's coming, and it is okay to learn from the past. We're not saying no to either of those things. But we miss something if we don't allow the present moment to captivate our attention and to be different from our past or our future. So that is what we are invited into. A mindfulness, a sense of being present and connected. And we're going to see if we might awaken our senses to that calling into the present moment with hymn number 298. It is in the gray hymnal. It is number 298, which I know is not in the order of service, so I'm going to say it a third time. 298 in the gray hymnal, Wake Now My Senses. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing together. Just a few announcements. I know this is thinking about the future rather than this present moment. But this morning, we're going to have a RE gathering for children and youth and caregivers and RE volunteers here in the sanctuary from 11:30 to 12:30. There's not going to be any gathering in the classrooms. Everybody's going to meet here today. And also today, there's a craft fair in the fellowship hall. There's lots of variety and lots of different kinds of things there. If you are doing some holiday shopping, you might be able to get it all done downstairs today if you're lucky. So please take a look there. I believe there's coffee and all of that stuff as usual. There's just more crafts to buy than usual. Next week, we are going to have a potluck, full-on potluck. So bring your main dishes that you've been dying to share, but Harry's Kitchen Crew hasn't been letting you. Bring all of that. Bring side dishes, bring salads, bring desserts. If we wind up with just lots and lots of desserts, then that's what the luck in potluck is. But next week, we'll have a meal together, and then we're going to decorate the tree that the youth are bringing in today. We're going to decorate it next week after the service. Next week, we're going to be talking a little bit about absence that we are more aware of around the holidays. And so if you have a special holiday decoration or some other item that brings the presence of someone that you love into your heart, I just invite you to bring that with you next week. You'll have an opportunity over our brunch to share about what that means to you. You do not have to leave it here and hang it on our tree if it's a special ornament to you. You could, though, if you wanted to. But I just invite you to bring that with you next week. If you want to be a part of any of the preparation for decorating the sanctuary, there are going to be lots of different things that need to happen throughout the week. Please get in touch with Jenny to let them know that you are willing to help over the next few days getting things organized. Also, I just want to look ahead even further to December 24th, Christmas Eve. We are going to have our service at 6 p.m. There's going to be some music from many of our talented young people beginning at 5:30, and then food and fellowship afterwards. Thank you, Cliff Wire. I saw you a little while ago. Where are you, Cliff? Thank you, Cliff, for organizing our food and fellowship after that service. If you want to help prepare for Christmas Eve with organizing costumes and some little tasks to help us get prepared for that very interactive service, also talk to Jenny, because they are coordinating all of those efforts. Okay, coming back from the future for just one moment. There are lots and lots of mindfulness practices, and there are lots of ways that we can call ourselves back into the present moment. I invite you to find one. Just look up mindfulness practices. There's a thing where you name 5 things you can see, and 4 things you can hear, and 3 things you can smell, and 2 things you can taste, and 1 thing. There's all of that stuff. There's also just the being here now, grounding in the moment. When you find yourself getting tugged back into the past or forward into the future in a way that gets your heartbeat going a little too fast, those are amazing practices to get us back to the present moment and the people right here with us that need us to let them know that they are the most important thing in the world to us right now. May you have the courage and the skillfulness over time to grow in presence with one another. Amen, and blessed be.
It's time to extinguish our chalice. Please join in reading the words on the yellow card in front of you. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.